He looked impatient. That was the last thing I saw clearly before I knew I was done. Kayden's eyes, already somewhere else, already past me. The officiant was speaking, but I wasn't listening anymore. "Do you take—" I lifted my veil. I smiled. "No. I had 12 years with Kayden. How many 12 years does a person get to spend?" I checked into a hotel that night, turned off my phone, and slept for 16 hours. And in my dreams I was 16 again, standing in a narrow corridor with a fever burning through me, watching a girl walk toward me out of the dark like something sent deliberately. I had lost my parents that year. A car accident. They left behind an insurance settlement large enough that every relative I had suddenly remembered they loved me. I told the lawyer I didn't need a guardian. Let the money wait until I was an adult. My grandmother called me ungrateful. My aunt said I was heartless. What they'd forgotten, what they chose to forget, was that before the money, every single one of them had said my bad luck had killed my own parents. I found a small room. I told myself I was strong. Then the fever hit. One night, shaking so hard I could barely walk to the pharmacy down the street, I understood for the first time what being completely alone actually meant. In the corridor outside my door, I met Kayden. He was backlit, walking toward me through the dark. I collapsed before he reached me. He was 17. He lived across the hall. He and his parents took care of me for 2 weeks and asked for nothing. My 16th year, which should have been the worst year of my life, somehow found warmth again. I held on to it. When I was well, Kayden sat with me in the park. He had this smile, clean, open, the kind that made you feel found, and he said,
"I saved your life. A debt like that deserves a hug at minimum."
I laughed. "Name your price, lifesaver." He went red. He started to say something. Didn't finish it. We became desk mates at our new school. He was brilliant, patient in a way that never felt like condescension. Whatever I couldn't figure out, he could, and he stayed with me until I actually understood it. I loved that version of Kayden. I believe he loved me the same way. I think that part was real. But people change. Love doesn't always change with them. The morning after the wedding I walked out of, I woke to 40 messages I didn't have the energy to answer. Then Kayden called.
"Where are you?"
3 words, all impatience, like I was the one who'd been a burden for years. I remembered when he used to say my name like it meant something.
"What exactly is your problem? I carved out time for a wedding. You're the one who set this date. And now this? I should never have—"
He stopped himself, but I heard the end of it. I should never have saved you. 12 years, and he still thought this was a scene I was making. "There's no later for us, Kayden. I already told you. I'm giving you back your freedom."
Don't you dare turn this into something permanent because you're upset right now.
"I'm not upset." He went quiet, then hung up. I looked at the ceiling of the hotel room and waited for the feeling to become something I could name. It didn't. It just sat there, flat and heavy and complete. I thought about the last 3 months. The way his phone had started going face down the moment I walked into a room. The way he'd laugh at something on the screen and go quiet when I asked what. Small things. The kind of things you notice and then talk yourself out of noticing, because the alternative is a conversation you're not ready to have. I had been talking myself out of it for 3 months. I wasn't anymore. Later that week, I met Kayden's mother for lunch. She'd filled the table with everything I liked without asking. The small things she'd been cataloging for years. The dishes I'd mentioned once and she'd filed away. Steamed dumplings. The soup with the ginger. The cold noodles I only ever wanted in summer, and she'd made anyway because she knew I hadn't been eating properly. I sat down and looked at all of it and didn't trust myself to speak.
"Jamie, how did things get this far?"
Her hand on mine. Her eyes were already wet. She wasn't asking me to explain. She already knew the broad shape of it. Mothers always do, before anyone tells them. She was asking in the way you ask a question you need spoken out loud, even though you already know the answer. My chest cracked open a little. I had been wondering the same thing for months. Kayden's family hadn't had an easy time of it. His father's heart had been failing for years, managed on medication, precarious. When I was 20, he had a second surgery. I paid for it. I would have done it again. That was never the ledger I was keeping. When the doctor came out and said the surgery had gone well, Kayden looked up at me with something in his eyes I'd never seen before, something bright and a little desperate, and said,
"Thank you. You are worth everything."
I believed him. That same week, in Kayden's father's hospital room, I met Sophie. She worked with Kayden on a research project. Sweet-looking, attentive. She brought soup her mother had made and asked after Kayden's father with a warmth that was just a little too careful around the edges. She liked Kayden. Anyone with eyes could see it. The non-negotiable kind of liking. Kayden's mother saw it too. She cornered Kayden after Sophie left.
What exactly is happening with that girl?
Nothing. She's a classmate.
Keep it that way. Don't betray Jamie.
I won't, I promise.
He sounded like he meant it. So I didn't guard against Sophie. I trusted us. But Sophie kept appearing. And Kayden, who had never been someone who lived on his phone, started disappearing into it. He'd stare at the screen and smile to himself. If I leaned over, he'd click it off.
Nothing, just a meme.
I'm not proud of what I did next. I looked at his phone. Sophie's messages, every morning, without fail. Good morning, sir. The big sleepyhead isn't awake yet, is he? Kayden's replies were warm and easy, in a way he hadn't been with me in months. Then from Sophie.
I'm craving the carbonara you made again. I can't cook anything. You're so talented.
Fine. I'll make you a big portion. Don't complain when you eat too much.
Carbonara. My dish. The one he always made for me. I put down his phone. I looked at him sleeping, easy and untroubled, and I thought, what else has been quietly replaced? My birthday. I had a reservation. I'd made his favorite bottle of something. I didn't know whether to keep his seat. After all, he forgot. He called late to say he had data to analyze and would be home around midnight. I said fine and went to campus to bring him dinner anyway, because I still did things like that back then. At the school gate, the sky opened up. I was soaked through in seconds. And through the rain, I could see them, Kayden coming out of his building, Sophie on her back. He carried her carefully over the puddles, umbrella held over Sophie's head, rain running off the rim and onto Kayden's shoulder. Sophie laughed. Kayden looked back at her. I called Kayden's number and watched him pull out his phone. Sophie grabbed it, declined the call. I stood there until my food container hit the ground. 12 years. I had thought nothing could touch them. I should tell you about Josie, because she matters to what happened next. She was the one driving the car that hit me. I don't blame her. I wasn't watching where I was going. Kayden and I had fought again about my decision to leave academia and start a business, and he had said, with a flat certainty that felt almost rehearsed,
You won't find work out there. I'm telling you, you just won't.
I had followed him out to take back that sentence. I was too scared of losing him to let an argument sit. The car came from nowhere. When I woke up, Kayden was there. Red eyes, white knuckles. The most afraid I had ever seen him.
I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. You have no idea how scared I was.
And I thought, in that hospital bed, the mug he'd thrown doesn't matter. He's here. Everything else can be replaced. But Josie, the woman who'd been driving, turned out to be the best thing that came from that day. She had the same instincts I had about where our industry was going. She offered to build something with me. She said it simply, sitting in that hospital room with a guilty conscience and very good posture. I think you see what I see. Do you want to try? I said yes before I'd thought it through. Some decisions are like that. Kayden said we'd fail. He said it more than once, and each time with a slightly different flavor. Sometimes concern, sometimes a flatness that took me a while to recognize as something else. Not worry. Relief almost. Like my failure would resolve something he couldn't name directly. We didn't fail. Josie understood markets in a way that felt almost unfair. She saw around corners, anticipated problems 2 quarters out, built relationships before she needed them. I had execution. I could work until I forgot to eat, hold 10 things in my head at once, walk into a room where no one expected anything from me, and walk out with a deal. Together, we were something neither of us was alone. The first year was brutal. Second year, we broke even. Third year, we hired 8 people, then 12. By the time Kayden made his comment about my money, we had 22 staff and more work than we could take on. He never once asked what the business was actually doing. I filed that away too. A small note in a drawer I wasn't ready to open yet. And somewhere in the months of building what Josie and I built, the silence between Kayden and me stopped feeling like rest. It started feeling like distance. The morning texts stopped. The carbonara became takeout containers dropped on the counter. At night, he lay with his back to me.
I've just been busy. Research is demanding right now.
I was busy too. Too busy or too afraid to say, this isn't what busy looks like. I bought the apartment we'd talked about for years. He was too busy to help choose it. Too busy to help decorate. He came for 1 hour when it was done and looked around and said,
Jamie, you really do have money.
I don't think he heard himself. I stood in that apartment, the one I'd chosen alone, decorated alone, filled with furniture I'd picked out on a Saturday morning while he was at a conference he couldn't name the location of. And I thought about the version of us that had planned this together. The version that talked about a big kitchen and a spare room and a garden that got afternoon sun. That version had been very specific about the garden. I booked the wedding. I chose the date he'd once told me he wanted. I bought the dress alone, in a shop where the sales assistant assumed my friend was coming later and I didn't correct her. Every time I mentioned the venue, the flowers, the invitations, Kayden had a deadline, a meeting, a piece of research at a critical stage. And yet, I wasn't looking for anything. That matters. I want to be precise about this. I was on my phone one evening, Kayden asleep beside me, back turned, the familiar shape of his absence even when he was present, and Sophie's account came up in suggested posts. We had mutual followers. The algorithm had decided we should know each other. Her account was public. The first photo stopped me. A park I didn't recognize, a date stamped in the caption. The same afternoon, Kayden had told me he was at an academic conference, the one he'd mentioned so specifically, the university name, the panel he was sitting on. I remember because I'd looked it up to tell him good luck and couldn't find the event listed anywhere. I'd told myself I was searching wrong. In the photo, Sophie and Kayden. Kayden's arm around her shoulders. Both of them squinting into the afternoon sun, smiling the way you smile when someone you like very much is standing next to you with a camera. I kept scrolling. The second photo. A Ferris wheel. The date was the afternoon I'd spent in a furniture showroom, texting Kayden pictures of sofas and getting back one-word replies. At the top of the Ferris wheel, Sophie had her head on Kayden's shoulder. He was looking at her. The caption said simply, "Best views are the ones you share." The third photo was tagged at a restaurant I'd suggested to Kayden 3 times. He'd said he'd been too tired to go out. Sophie's caption was a single heart. I put my phone down. I picked it up again and looked at the dates one more time, each one careful and methodical, the way you check a calculation you want to be wrong about. I wasn't wrong. I didn't need to dig. I didn't need to track his location, or read his messages, or become the version of myself I had never wanted to be. Sophie had posted all of it, publicly, with dates and locations and captions written for an audience. Sophie wasn't keeping a secret. Sophie was keeping a record. And at some point, perhaps on that Ferris wheel, perhaps before, she had decided she wanted it found. Kayden's mother called and asked me to come to the family home. When I arrived, there were relatives. I understood immediately. The aunts and uncles took turns. You've done so well. Kayden made a mistake. Women shouldn't hold their partners to impossible standards. Think about your future. Don't throw away 12 years over something that can be forgiven. Kayden's mother held my hand and cried.
It's all Kayden's fault. Whatever anger you need to let it out on me. I just can't bear to lose you from this family.
I looked at the table of people who had, in their own way, been a second family to me. I picked up my glass. Thank you, truly, all of you, for the years of warmth. I've made my decision, and it won't change. But I want you to know that what this family gave me when I was 16, I've carried every day since. An aunt cut in, sharp.
You've done so well for yourself, and now you're walking away? He has been with you since he was young. He gave you his best years.
I looked at Kayden. Did I force him to stay? All 12 years. Did I once make him stay against his will? If these years cost him something, they cost me equally. I set 3 photos on the table. First, Sophie, Kayden's chopsticks in her mouth, feeding her the carbonara. On my birthday, the dish he always made for me. Second, Sophie and Kayden at a park outside the city. On the afternoon, Kayden told me he was at an academic conference, the same week we set the wedding date. Third, the Ferris wheel. Arms around each other, eyes closed. The afternoon I spent alone choosing our wedding furniture. Sophie posted all of it herself. Locations, dates, captions. I didn't investigate. She wanted it found. The room went quiet. Kayden's parents stared at him. Kayden's mother stood up. Her face had changed entirely.
Kayden, how could you?
He turned to me, tears streaming, gripping both my hands.
Forgive him, please. I'll make sure he treats you right. Don't leave this family.
Kayden rushed over, eyes wet, hands reaching.
Jamie, I'm sorry. I'll block her. I'll delete everything. I promise you. I only love you. I've only ever loved you.
He deleted Sophie's account in front of me. Right there. Maybe he meant it. But he'd spent the better part of a year choosing comfortable ambiguity over honesty with me. The moment he first let the lines blur, every apology after that was just weather. Kayden. I said it quietly, his full name, the way you say something for the last time. I protected your dignity in that wedding hall. Not because I still love you, because I didn't want our 12 years to end ugly. What I was protecting was never you. It was the memory of who you used to be. I picked up my bag. In the hallway, Kayden's mother caught my arm, barely holding herself upright.
Without you, his father might not have made it. This family is what it is because of you, please.
I held her for a moment. Auntie, you don't owe me anything. Neither does this family. Call me if you ever need anything. I'm not changing my number. The door closed. My tears came then, not from grief exactly, but from something older. The particular loneliness of walking away from the only warmth you'd known. I had been here before, at 16, in a different corridor. This time I knew how it ended. The new city was good to me. The business grew. Josie and I had something real. My friends called often, mostly to make me laugh. All that success and completely alone. Tragic. They also told me, eventually, that Kayden and Sophie hadn't happened. Kayden had turned on Sophie after I left. Final, cutting words. Sophie moved on to someone else's husband, as it turned out. That situation resolved itself loudly, in the way those situations tend to. I didn't feel satisfied hearing it. I felt nothing, which was its own kind of answer. Years later, I heard that Kayden had never married. I thought about that for about 30 seconds. What does late devotion buy you when the person who would have received it has already built a life that doesn't have your shape in it? Nothing. It buys you nothing. But I still think about him sometimes. Not Kayden as he became, but the boy in the corridor. The one walking toward me through the dark with the light at his back. The one who sat with me in the park and went red when I asked him to name his price. He was real. What we had at 16 was real. I'm glad I got to have it. I'm glad I was smart enough finally to let it go. On that wedding morning, I looked across the aisle at the man Kayden had become. The impatience already in his eyes before the ceremony had finished its first sentence. And I thought, no, not this. Not anymore. The officiant spoke. I lifted my veil. I smiled. And this time the smile was mine entirely, belonging to no one else, shaped by nothing but my own clear decision. No. And I walked out into my own life,